Hi, Mark here from the Tangent-Bound Podcast Network and host of the flagship show, the Tangent-Bound Podcast. Did you know that we over at Tangent-Bound are always looking for amazing podcasts to promote? And did you also know that we are also proud nerds and geeks of everything from movies, music, gaming, TV shows, and comic books to wrestling, MMA, soccer, and football? Whatever you can nerd or geek out about, we've got it. And if you're interested, we can help you find it. And if you're a show looking for a place to call home, we've got you covered. Side effects may include upset stomach, dizziness, tumors, shakes, and in some rare cases, death from excessive laughter. Though to be fair, it's only sometimes. Other side effects may include diarrhea, gallstones, heart palpitations, and strong desire for cookies on the dark side. Talk to your doctor and visit TangentBoundNetwork.com and see if Tangent-Bound Network is right for you.
Sucks to the last drop. Are you gonna blow your head off? Take good aim and don't forget to duck. A life sucks every Monday and all the way to Sunday, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I don't care how you're doing, what's up or how's it hanging. I'd like to buy this world one last drink. Life sucks all of the time, so stick it up your sunshine, and then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day.
Hey everybody, welcome to a new episode of The Crazy Life. I'm Brian. Joining me as usual is Heno.
Hey.
And I almost let in with salty language because we haven't done this in a while. And
Well, you've done a lot more salty languages since we've done A Crazy Life.
Just a few, yeah. We just had our 13th. Basically, by now I think, or very soon was like 13 years ago. We recorded episode 1. So for our Patreon, we did a little retrospective on that, because we don't normally do that stuff, because really the anniversaries, it's like, oh, that's cool, and then we just, because that's kind of how we look at it. It's like, oh, that's cool and whatever, but it's a lot. I mean, that was episode 671 we just posted, so that's a lot. Wow. This is 363 of this show, so that's also a lot.
It's pretty amazing.
But like you said, significantly less than the other, but yeah. So, yeah. So, boy, we've it's been a little bit since we recorded, but both of us have done some things since then.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know. You want me to go first because mine will be shorter, and then you can take up. Okay. So, I've had some cool hangs with friends over the last few weeks. Before we took off for West Virginia, a friend of ours, Steve, came in town. Me, Tony, and him hung out for a night, and that was awesome. I haven't seen him in so long. He moved from like around here to nearish Akron, Ohio, I think, and I haven't seen him since he moved, so it was really cool to see him again. We hung out and all that, and it's when you see somebody that's a person you really like having in your life, and you haven't in a while, it's always that nice it's a nice charge to your social battery, even though you're hanging out, and that does drain no matter good or bad. But when it's something like that, it's always a good, it's a charge. So at the end of the night, you're like, that was worth the hang, So,
yeah.
And then later that weekend, me and Tony headed to West Virginia to hang out with our friend. If you listen to Salty Language, you'll know him as Cheeto Bandito. I met him on Twitter, I don't know, 1,000 years ago. And, he's been a listener of the show. He listens to this also. So, hi, Cheeto. You've talked to him because we called you last time we were there.
Yep.
We thought about it this time, but you were busy.
I was in the mountains.
Yeah, so I was like,
you were. It was a weekend or so ago.
It was a birthday weekend, I believe. I'm sorry, I can't remember whose it was, but yeah.
That's right. Yes, it was Bree's birthday
right.
weekend. Yeah.
Okay. Well, happy belated to Bree if she's listening. So Yeah, so I was like, well, I don't know if Heno's going to be like the time before. I knew you weren't doing anything because you and I had talked right before. So I was like, he's probably busy. But anyways, it was so much fun. You know, just getting to hang out with Tony for a weekend was awesome because we don't do that stuff. You know, when we hang, it's usually for a few hours on whatever. We do the podcast each week, so to have a whole weekend where we could kind of, you know, the drive down there and all, it would just BS and just, you know, kind of takes us back to when we were younger and we used to hang out occasionally for lengths of time or whatever. So that's always fun. And being around Cheeto and his family is always a good time. They're just such good people. His friends, we enjoyed pretty much anybody we meet down there, and we're welcomed like we're family, you know, and it's so awesome when you see somebody you haven't seen in 2 years that we had only met the first time then, and they see us this time, and you can tell they're excited to see you, not just like, oh, it's them, you know, you know, but more of a, oh, hey guys, you know, how you been, blah, blah, you know, it makes you feel so good when, you know, it's like, you know, like I said, just a big warm hug of a weekend. Basically, we ate like kings. We had fun. I had one rough day because we had drank a little too much on Friday, and Saturday was hot and humid, and the pairing of the two not good for your boy. But but you know, I rallied, and you know, we ended up just hanging out on the deck on Saturday for most of the day. It was just so relaxing because we didn't have it. There's no itinerary really. You know, it's not like, oh, we got to do this, because it was literally get there, go to his place, hang out with good people, and that's the plan for the weekend. You know, we can do other stuff, and we did a couple other things, but you know, it's like, but that's the real plan. Is basically it's just show up and hang out with a bunch of people that are just there to have fun. You know. You just can't get enough of that. I mean, you can, but you know what I mean? Like, it's just getting that in life is always, like I said before, it's like that was such a recharge. And, you know, by the end of the weekend, you're ready to come home, but also that social hangover, you take it every time, you know, because you had a good time and it was fun and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, it was, you know, and then this past week, I hung out with our friend Jeannie and our friend Josh, and you know, we did basically the same thing Tony, me, and Steve did, which was, you know, hang at a brewery, had some beers, had some pizza, and just, you know, had a really good time and caught up with them because I haven't hung out with Josh in a while, but I haven't hung out with Jeannie in a while either. So it's always nice to have those again. You know, those are. You know, when you get to hang with the people in your inner circle, especially, like I said, you know, it really does. It recharges you in ways that other things don't, and it just really helps. You know, after the weekend in West Virginia, it did take me a couple days to kind of. First of all, my voice on Monday afterwards was pretty much shot because we basically talked all weekend, laughing and all weekend, you know. So we get back, and I'm like, oh, I hope Tony doesn't want to record on Monday. And luckily, we didn't record till I think Wednesday that week. And I was like, oh, I'm so glad, because my voice was Monday was about half gone. Tuesday was much better, and then Wednesday I was pretty much fine. It was, you know, a little scratchy, but overall good. But I was like, yeah, again, it's like I'd take that every time. You know, it was all good. It was not from like yelling at anybody. It was just so much talking and laughing and everything. So also being around a fire a little bit, you know, because that, yeah. But yeah, that's I on the flip of it. So now that I've given the good, I'll give the less good. But nothing bad. But just the idea that I've gotten really terrible about. I got a list of 5 phone calls I need to make now. I think the last time we recorded, 3 of them needed to be made.
Oh, no.
So I've added to the list and not scratched any off. And one of which includes therapy. And I really do need to get that one shored up. The others are ones that I've been putting off going to the eye doctor. Just not because I'm afraid or anything. I just haven't done it. You know, it's just stuff like that. You know, I just need to. I haven't gone in my insurance. I'm at the point where my insurance will pay for a new pair of glasses. So it's like, what am I waiting for? Go get the new, you know, even if it's the same prescription, go get new glasses, you know. So, yeah, like I said, nothing bad, but I've noticed I'm doing a little more of the putting things off again. I think for a couple weeks there, I felt like there was quite a bit of go, go, go. And I think that's my natural response to that is stop, stop, stop. So, as a result, I think that's a good part of it. But yeah, I need to get that taken care of, or those taken care of, I should say, because I've been putting that stuff off for too long, and there's no reason for it. Like I said, it's like other than I just put off phone calls because I hate making phone calls so much. The dentist one is a little different because I think I got to call a new dentist and set that up. So that's a little, it's not, it becomes different, but, yeah. So, but there's that. And then something else I've been doing, which I've been finding kind of interesting, is that, I'm sure you remember a long time ago, I talked about how, like, when I hit a certain point with consuming TV, podcast, music, whatever it is, I get an overwhelm at a certain point because I'll go, man, I haven't listened to podcasts in blah, blah, blah. I'm so far behind, and I feel pressure at some point. And I've gotten to where, honestly, I haven't listened to a podcast in I don't know how long now. And there's some that I really do want to get back to. But what I've been doing is when I'm watching stuff, I've just been like, whatever game system I happen to have on, I'll just be like, oh, what streaming whatever do I have here? And I'll just watch whatever and not care that I'm halfway through a season on another show. Like I'll get, okay, next time I have the Xbox on. Oh, okay, now I'll watch whatever I was watching on there. And I've done that back and forth. The only exception has been the new Batman, it's called Batman Cape Crusader, dropped on Amazon. And I powered through that because it's so good. It's very reminiscent of the old Batman animated series, but it's very much its own show. It's more about Batman being a detective more than like punch all the bad guys. I mean, there's punching of bad guys, but it's not the overall theme of the show, much like that one was. And yeah, it's just so good. So good. So that made me so happy because I love Batman and I love that other animated series so much. So I was so happy that, the first season of that. The only downside is now it literally just dropped and I'm through the season already. And it's like, well, it's going to be probably a year and a half before I see any more, basically, So, but what I found by watching stuff this way is I felt no pressure to finish or consume, the TV product. Even though I know I could sit and just do nothing but watch TV and I would never catch up, basically, because there's so much stuff on so many streaming services that I want to watch that I could just watch forever, basically. And I think my brain has finally come to terms with that there is you can't consume everything, like music, TV, all of it. It's like there's just always going to be stuff out there you can't experience. As much as I'd love to hear all the great music there is to hear, or watch all the great TV there is to watch, or whatever, it's like you just can't. So I think my brain's finally clicking into that aspect of, just do what you want to do, and that's fine. That's enough. So. Because I've even recently, the last couple of weeks, I started where I'd left off on The Simpsons because I had up through season 14 on DVD, or 13. So I went back to season 13 and started watching. So now my goal is eventually I'm going to work my way all the way through The Simpsons. So I've seen every episode at least once, but not in a pressure way. It's more of at the end of the night, I'm like, I watch something a little kind of tense. I need something else. Simpsons. It's a perfect ending for, so. Yeah, overall, good stuff. Nothing been feeling real bad other than, it's always the same thing. I was doing stuff where I was doing pretty well on eBay. That tightened up, and now, of course, I'm feeling stressed on that because I always do. But then also, I just keep feeling that overwhelming stress of, like, I should be doing something more with my life and can't seem to figure out where to take a step forward at. You know, I know it won't happen this way, but it's like I wish there was something could kind of give me a little shove in the direction I'm supposed to go. You know, not someone to hold my hand all the way, but just a little shove the right way, and then I'd be like, oh, okay, because I just don't have a clue. But yeah, other than that, like I said, I think overall everything's pretty decent right now. So, how about you?
Well, it's been quite a month since we last talked.
Yeah. You haven't really done anything of note, though. So
No,
Yeah.
not at all. Nothing like nothing interesting.
no.
You know, I've just been locked in my house, and
Well, you know, house arrest will do that to you.
yes, it will with the bracelet on.
Yeah, you bedazzled it though.
was
It
not-
looks nice.
It was nice of them to let me go to Alaska, though.
Yeah. Yeah, we kid about the house arrest part. Like,
Yeah, it was really that was an amazing getaway, and I don't know if I will ever do that one again.
Mhm.
I think I would like to go up to Alaska and visit some more remote areas and some other towns.
maybe not via cruise, but just go to Alaska kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and just more target specific.
Yeah, that makes sense.
If I
I've
do
known
it-
a lot of people
yeah.
that have gone to places and done the like tourist gimmick, and then they come home and they'll be like, I really want to go see like Italy is a great example. A lot of people go to Italy, you see the things you're supposed to see, but there's all this other stuff that I've heard is amazing in Italy, you know, that people will be like, I want to go back for that, you know.
Yeah, like the big cities, or not really cities, but the big towns we went to were very touristy. And then the one that I was looking forward to the most was Ketchikan, and that turned out to be exactly what I thought it was going to be, which was a lot of locally owned shops and
That's what, and
know.
I know you're that kind of person too. That's what I love too. When we went through West Virginia, we didn't go the toll road or a turnpike. We went the back roads, or not back roads, but the rural roads. Basically, we got to see like every one stoplight town between here and there, basically. And it's cool because you get to see all the character of the towns. We got to see the world's largest horse and buggy that are basically built out of wood, and you know, like stuff like that that you wouldn't have gotten to see on the toll road, you know. So
Exactly.
yeah, it's cool to see
Yeah,
that
no-
stuff.
And we knew that at Ketchikan we could either go to this wildlife park and see a ton of bears, or we could go downtown and
Also see a lot of bears.
well, that was the funny thing. We ended up seeing a bear.
Yeah.
Like it's an old red light district built on a boardwalk, and it's over a creek. It's a tidal creek, but you know, at one point there's just a bear cruising around underneath the shops and the boardwalk, and then bald eagle just comes down and lands right on a rock right in the middle of the creek. You know, you're
Like, okay, this is scheduled. Like, this is just for the tourists, right? Like, you got a trainer somewhere around here.
So that was really great. But the other locations, just we did get to see some wildlife, and it was just the numbers, the sheer when all the dolphins started getting behind the ship and playing around in the wake, they were just groups and groups and groups of dolphins. I
wow.
I couldn't even. The only problem is you're 18 decks high, so they look like fish.
Oh yeah, that's
Like
true.
all
Yeah, because I've been where I've seen dolphins before, and it's usually like it was like 3 or 4 or something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's cool though.
But, that's like that was the thing. It was the numbers. We had binoculars and whatever, we could see things. But
Yeah.
like when we were in Jamaica, there were actual dolphins
Right there, yeah.
cruising along with
Yeah.
a boat next to us. Or I've even been down in Mexico on my jet ski and had a dolphin trail.
Yeah.
But also just the sea otters, which is one of my favorite creatures in
Yeah.
the world. There's
Yep.
just thousands of them in Glacier Bay now. In 1990, there wasn't a single one in
Oh,
Glacier
wow.
Bay. And then I think the main thing for me was just landing on the glacier on a helicopter was really incredible. But it was just getting a chance to be in the environment, to see the landscape, to see the waterfalls as the ship's going through, which made me think that, I'll go on another cruise with my mom again, just spend time with my mom.
Yeah.
But if I were to ever do another cruise, it would definitely have to be like a Mediterranean or something around Norway, again in the fjords, where there's something to look at.
Yeah.
And because it was more interesting to me. And yeah, it was. We had a good time. It was like I said. I'm so happy we did it.
Yeah, your pictures were great. I really enjoyed like the whole time that you were posting stuff because, you know, I knew you would because I figured, well, if not, you know, because I knew you would, but it was like even if you didn't, I'd be like, hey, you know, what pictures did you take? I knew one way or the other I'd see them, but.
Sharon took way more wildlife photos for me, but she's been using Snapchat, which is like, you know,
yeah,
that's kind of useless to everybody else.
Yeah,
like my mother. So I think she sent a section to my mother herself. But that was really great. And then coming, you know, work has been challenged, a real challenge. But it's been a long time since I've honestly felt stressed at work, and I've actually felt stressed at work recently.
Yeah,
it's not an all the time thing right now, but you know, it's just when we thought like we were catching up on some things and had a break, we have a couple more things just come, you know, hit us, and so that's been like, I think last week at one point I was honestly stressed a little bit, and not from any sort of just anxiety.
Yeah.
Of I know everything's going to work itself out, but we're in the middle of it, and you just got to wait till it works itself out.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of times when I get into those positions, I would just rather do something a lot more simpler. So sometimes I will procrastinate a little bit on maybe the next step I'm supposed to take.
Yeah.
Just because I just need to just do something dumb.
Yeah. It's like me in a video game. I do a side quest when I'm stressed, and like if the game feels stressful, instead of doing the next major point, I'll do side quests.
Yeah,
because they're just dumb, but it's mindless, basically. Yeah.
And then just tons of music. I knew July was going to be busy with lots of gigs.
Is it mostly gigs with the new band, or is it both? Or
what it was it was getting ready and doing gigs with the new band, but getting the old band prepped to do gigs in August.
Ah, okay.
So what we kind of did is we decided that the gigs that we would do with Doghouse, that we would kind of cluster them together in a period of a week or two, so that we could just get them all done and then move on and back to recording. And as a result, though, is like, you know, sometime in June. I mean, I was already ready in June. I just said, hey, we need to start practicing because Tom has written a bunch of new songs and I know he wants to perform them. Yeah. And, you know, because he's proud of them. And I said, we need to work on them.
Let's learn them. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Get your timing and everything.
A lot. Yeah. So that starts in a couple of weeks with Doghouse. In the meantime, this last weekend I went up to, it's called the Harmonica Festival. It's been going on since 1990, but it's become just a general music festival. It's up in the middle of central Idaho, in the middle of nowhere. I'm talking, this is an old mining camp that turned into a town. It's got year-round population of 35, and 2,000 people come in for this weekend. And it was my first time going camping with Sharon, and it was really fun. I mean, not that we haven't gone camping before, but since Sharon has kind of turned the van into her little, you know.
Oh, yeah, right.
Home.
Yeah,
so
right. I
great.
Forgot about that.
So
yeah.
we set up. We decided to bring the tent for. It's a tent that fits on the back of the van. It's designed for an SUV, but it works on a van too. So you end up putting the door up, and then the tent is an extension.
Oh, okay.
So when people would walk up, they'd look inside the tent and they'd be like, "Whoa!" Like, because you're seeing all the way into the van.
Oh, yeah, right.
And it looked really, and it was really cool. But getting the tent part up, we'd assembled this tent once in the front yard. And so the tent part went up actually pretty quick, and then I put the little sleeve over the back of the van, and then it was trying to come up with putting the fly on just to have some shade. And the fly, I was getting a little confused, and then Sharon comes up, and I'm like, man, I wish we had the instructions on this, and I'd forgotten that they put the instructions on the inside of the bag that it comes in. So she comes up, she's like, here's the instructions, and I go, oh wait, show me that picture. Okay, I got it.
Yeah.
And she goes. You got that just from the photo? And I'm like, yeah, I just needed a little.
I need to know what it looks like, and then I can figure it out myself.
I just need to orient myself.
Yep.
Yeah. And so then it was like boom, 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 up, right?
Yeah.
And then what was great is she goes, so now everything's all ready, and she just kind of puts a hand up. She's like, because I started to grab totes and stuff, and she just puts her hands up. She's like, I got this. Because that's her part now.
Right,
It's
right.
Like the setup.
Yeah.
Because she's been doing this now for a while. So I grab my guitar, I go sit down with Scott and Travis, and we're just jamming, playing some blues and whatever. And it was fun. I got to play a lot of guitar over the weekend, and that was great. And then when I came back over to the tent, I mean, it was just so decked out. Like she uses all the totes as tables.
Oh yeah, that
And
makes
just puts
sense.
little covers on.
Yeah,
them. And
we used to
yeah,
do that
they
when we
always-
did flea markets and stuff too.
Yeah.
Because you use whatever you can for a table, basically, because you didn't have
why
a
carry
table.
A table if
Yep.
you already have the equivalent.
Yep.
Yeah. And so everything was laid out. It was great, and it was a really wonderful time. I'm looking forward to doing it again. But of all the music stuff that I did do that I've done so far, my favorite was Travis, the drummer that I play with in Jukebox Widowmakers. He's got a really high range. And he's more of a background singer, but because he has a range, he can do more hard rock and metal stuff.
Okay, yeah, that makes
so
sense.
they decided to put together a group, and they're doing System of a Down and Alice in Chains.
Oh
covers.
yeah, I watched you posted
the
at least
video,
one
right?
video. Yeah, I watched that.
Yeah.
That was cool. Yeah,
So they called themselves System in Chains,
right.
and Ron, the guitar player, we're from the same school of rock metal guitar.
Yeah.
And the drummer, somebody that I've met over the years, but I didn't realize he was this good of a drummer. And the bass player plays with us and I played with in a bunch of stuff. He plays guitar with us. But the best part is they said, "Hey, will you mix the show?" Because it was just kind of a one-off thing. And I'm like, I would love to. And the cool thing is we had already done, Jukebox Widowmakers had done our show on Wednesday. So I had all the gear in the van already.
Oh,
So I
okay.
just left it in the van. And on Saturday, I went over there, set it up. I got the whole setup. I know exactly what I'm doing. I get it all set up pretty quick, get them going. I was so excited to finally mix some metal.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, because you guys, the Doghouse
never-
doesn't really do metal, right?
No.
I was gonna say you
We're-
guys are
we're basically a rock band.
right. Yeah, and the cover stuff you guys do and other stuff I've heard, it's generally not like metal, or if it is, it's like
No.
it's older.
It's all the stuff that we do with Jukebox Widowmakers. It's like the heaviest thing we do is an STP song.
Yeah, which is
It's
generally not super heavy. Yeah.
like we do War Pigs, but it's not really
Yeah,
whatever.
right.
It's
I mean,
old
it's Sabbath, but it's not. Yeah,
But
it's
still,
not
it's-
Sabbath's heaviest song for sure.
right.
Yeah.
And so, and the other thing is I'm always playing, so to do both is really kind of a challenge. And so this time I got to just sit there and just be the mixing engineer,
Yeah.
and which also allowed me to really dial in my system and to really do some things that I've been wanting to do, which is like, okay, what are my capabilities with this system? How could I make the sound better?
Yeah. Right.
But the main part of it was just finally, like, I've acoustic bands, Americana, I've done some Irish kind of folk punk kind of stuff before,
Yeah.
but to finally just have heavy guitars,
Yeah.
like everything about it was just like, yes. and then I mixed it for them. So they now have a live recording of it.
Very cool.
And I did the best I could. And actually, the way that they recorded it, they could actually go in and overdub some stuff and redo some things and make it really killer. And they paid me for it, and I gave them more than, like I put in like 3 nights into this recording afterwards.
Yeah,
besides
but
just a full day.
But it's like you were just saying, like,
it's not about the money.
No, but there's also, I mean, the money's appreciated because that shows they appreciate your
Exactly.
your effort.
That's it.
But also the like me seeing you talking about mixing metal,
Yes.
you were smiling the whole time, right?
Yeah.
So
It's
there's
the
things
joy.
we do in life to where you're like, I got paid for this, but I also would have done this for probably nothing, or I gave them a rate because it was a little passion project. Plus, like you said, you got to do something you hadn't gotten to do and test things, and so there's a learning thing in there for you too. So you got multiple benefits out of it. So there's something to be said for that for sure. But
It was big. It was big. It was really fun.
It was fun to listen to too. Like, because when it, I clicked on, because the first thing I did was I'm like, there's no Henno. And then I was like, I get it. Because then I read the caption where I think you said something about mixing it. I was like, oh, I bet he's just doing the sound. So, not that that's, I didn't mean that to sound minimizing, but.
No, that was.
But I'm used to your videos like, oh, there he is, kind of thing. Yeah. And I was like, where's Henno? And I was like,
oh God, it was just great.
Yeah.
It's funny how like that's going to be my musical event of the year.
Yeah.
And because they were like right off the bat, they're like, here, gave me some money, and I'm like, all right, yeah, I'm going to give you guys a recording of this, the whole thing.
Very cool.
Recorded it and do a mix, and
sounds like a good win for everybody, and everybody had some fun. And
yeah, it really was fun. I hope they do some more. I hope they do maybe like some gigs in the winter and do the thing again, because they had a great turnout, and I think a lot of people. I'll tell you the one thing that we talked about this weekend too. I have never seen more children get into a live show ever.
Right?
Like this
energy, man. That's why I love rock. That's why I love metal. The energy of metal is not like I love. Me. I love a lot of different types of music, but that energy from there's times where I've talked about it where like my "Walk Through a Brick Wall" song is literally "Walk" by Pantera, because when I hear it, I get fired up. Like if I had entrance music as a wrestler kind of thing for real life, that would be it. Because it gets me really like, let's go, kind of thing. And we all have something that does that. It's cool but that's why I always loved, like in the morning when I woke up in high school, first thing I did, turn on metal, because it's like, let's get the energy level up. Let's go.
Well, I'm telling you, that exists in children.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
This venue, I've seen huge crowds, countless different types of bands playing jam band stuff, acoustic stuff, punk stuff, whatever. And the kids always love to run around and have fun, but mostly they're kind of running around. They might dance a little. They were all like, there was this one girl, she was seriously flinging her hair around, banging her head, and like every boy
that's a different band. Bang Your Head's a different band.
Right, but it's just that primal beat that you and they all.
Especially with System of a Down. System of a Down's got a lot of really high energy stuff.
It moves.
And Alice in Chains has got some stuff that's a little more melodic and down, but
it's heavy.
But it's heavy. Yep.
Yeah, and there was this one point where I looked at all these kids and I'm like, wow, I don't think I've ever seen this before.
I love that.
They were so into it.
I always love that. It's something that's always great about going to see music. When you look around and you see how many other people, whether it's 100 or it's 20,000 or whatever the number is, and you look around and it's just, like I said, it's like we're all here for the same thing. We're all here because we love this band and we love this music, and just seeing people just kind of in a different place because you can kind of zone out because you get caught up in the music and like that. Those kids were just having fun and banging their head, and it's like, like that. That makes me smile because it takes me back to, my teenage years and, going to shows. And that was, no matter who you were seeing, you go to that venue where there's like, it's a small venue and it's a band nobody knows and there's like 20 people there, but everybody's having a great time. And then, like I said, then you go see like Metallica and everyone's banging their head, but it's just a different beast, but it's the same energy. Sometimes whether it's 25 people or like I said, 20,000 people. It's so cool.
Yeah.
There's nothing else that does that. Yeah.
That's why I like this music festival, because everyone that came up to Yellow Pine, they drove hours and hours and hours to be up here.
Yeah.
And they're all there for music. So they all appreciate music. And so when we played on it was Friday night, we only ended up playing for an hour and a half. There was some scheduling changes that were a little frustrating, but when we did get to play, everyone there was paying attention. Everyone was into it. Everyone appreciated music,
which is
wanted
awesome
to see live music. Yeah, so that was really cool.
I'm sure that feels a lot better than, not that I'm knocking it, but like if you're doing a bar gig and most of the people are there for the bar, they're not really there for the music.
Exactly.
And it's like they dig it, but it's also like if you quit playing, they also wouldn't complain. Like
yeah, no, that's absolutely the difference. Yeah. So the one I'm going to segue into using System of a Down because I was doing this thing. I had listened to Rick Rubin's podcast where they interviewed Serge Tankian.
Now, are you talking Broken Record or his new podcast?
Yeah, Broken
okay.
Record. Yeah.
Okay.
So the Broken Record podcast.
That's a great listen, by the
Serge.
way. If you're a System of a Down fan, you should listen to that.
Well, he talked about his book, and I happened to have my Audible credit popped up, and I had already had him on the list, and so I downloaded his book and read it. And if you enjoy that podcast, you will love this book.
Really quick, just for clarity, are you talking Serge's book or Rick's
Serge's
book? Okay,
book.
I have
Serge's
Rick Rubin's
book,
book, and I haven't started it yet.
Oh, okay.
I have the actual book, like physical book, and I have not read it yet.
So I did the audio. Serge reads it himself.
Okay.
And he puts his own character into it.
Sure.
And but it's a fascinating read. He really goes into the origin of his political activism, and gets really into the stuff that happened with that band.
Oh, I bet.
And
because I know for again, deep cut fans or people who really follow the band will know some of that. But it's like that band is nearly stopped various times and then come back and gotten back together. It's like their ideologies are very different, and it's cost them
beyond like they're all Armenian.
Yeah.
And so they have this thing that brought them all together, and it was the Armenian genocide is a real core of their what makes them their nationality.
Yeah.
And it was interesting, but they all came from different places. So like the guitar player Darren, he came from Iraq. And Serge, his family was in Beirut and left Beirut during the Civil War.
Right.
So he was in the middle of like bombs going off. I mean,
yeah.
His whole how he became who he became it's really amazing, and how it's his lifetime experiences. And for me, I really related to it because when he talked about going back to Armenia for the first time, it absolutely resonated with me with the first time I went to Estonia, because here you felt really strongly about a people, because the Estonians weren't freaking massacred by the millions.
Yeah.
However, they did survive World War II and Russian occupation.
Yeah,
being,
right.
Denied the Armenians were part of the Soviet Union as well, but they actually were more they got along with the Soviets where the Estonians weren't. And so it was like there was this your whole life you have this part of you that is so strong within you and your family and your culture, and then you finally get to go there.
Right.
And it was really wild.
Yeah. I've heard very many people I've known some people who've gone on the trek to like Jerusalem and heard something very similar, and that it's very powerful because, like you said, it's such something that's so important to like your culture, your people, but you're more of a I've heard about it.
Exactly.
And now I'm getting to actually experience it.
To be in the middle of it, it was wild.
I see. I'm from my family goes back to like white bread England, so there's not a lot for me to go experience except pressing others. So
yeah, and like so I was born in the United States, but I grew up speaking Estonian, and Serge did, he came here, he didn't speak any English at all,
which is obviously very common in a lot of immigrant situations. A lot of them continue to speak whatever their native tongue is.
Yeah, and his family did the whole American Dream thing, and it's a really great story. But he goes into a lot of band stuff, and there was just so many parallels and things that I resonated with me as far as what happens within a band dynamic.
Yeah,
and with songwriting and things.
Yeah, because that Broken Record talks a little bit about like conflict on was it Chop Suey or was it another song where there's like a lyric that they came to blows over, like almost like scrap things because of a disagreement with it because I can't remember the lyric, but it was something Serge wanted in there, and the others felt it was too controversial, basically, and they had a real thing over it. And his version is what made the cut, I believe, or a slightly altered version. It was something like that, and I was like, wow, because I know that stuff happens in bands because I've known people who've been in bands. I've heard a lot of stories of some of the really dumb fights within bands over something, and then some of them it's like, oh, that I can understand that you feel like your integrity is being questioned or criticized here. Or like in their case, they're a band that was on the come, and just one wrong step somewhere, and that can be the end of your band. That could just be the end of it.
That's the whole point of his book. It starts with his because 9/11 occurred right when that album came out.
Yeah.
And he made a huge political statement that put him on the wrong side of everybody in America.
Yeah.
And what that could have done to the band. And he and because this Chop Suey was called Suicide.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I forgot about that too. Yep.
Right. And so Chop Suey is a play on words.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
No, the really funny
also
one
a song that's been stuck in my head for the last 2 weeks. I heard it and I can't get it out of my head. Not that I'm complaining, but I can't get it out of my head.
No, the real fun one was there's a song where they have he's singing about a tapeworm coming at a certain part of the body.
Yeah.
And he was saying and the whole band didn't want to sing those lyrics because they thought that then everyone thought that the tapeworm was coming out of them. And it almost came to blows kind of a thing. Like
that might be what I was thinking of. It might have been I think that is what I was thinking of.
And so he said, so what if I change the word to your?
Yeah.
So it's coming, so I'm referring to the audience, the
right.
listener. The tapeworm is in the listener, and they're like, "Oh yeah, that works.
That's fine. Yeah,
we can sing that."
Just that semantic change. Yeah.
Oh, I've had these arguments.
That's why I said I've heard,
lyrics.
I've known bands
so
that
funny.
something in the lyrics has been a problem, and it's like, listen, if an actor can start their career by doing like a hemorrhoid commercial or blah blah, it's like just let it go. Like it's just part of the art. Most of the people listening won't assume that you're up there telling a biographical situation.
Yeah.
It depends on the artist, I guess. If it's like Tori Amos or something, they'll assume this is more of an experience, or Taylor Swift or something. They're going to assume there's a little more like backstory to it. In most rock music, the lyrics are like half garbage anyway, so it's like most people don't dive too deep in them.
Like there's certain songs of theirs that are really well known that are complete nonsense.
Yes.
They mean nothing.
Yep.
You can try to read whatever you want into it. There's nothing in there, and that was part of.
Well, that's where you give the artist statement of, well, I don't really want to tell what it means. I want the listener to decide.
So what do you think it means?
Right.
Yeah. They part of it was Serge has if you listen certain songs he tries to pack as many words as he can into it, because he actually has something to say. And other songs he's decided that he actually wants nothing to say.
Yeah.
Because, he didn't want to take himself too seriously. And I think that was how Rick Rubin, he describes Rick Rubin coming and seeing them at a club, and that Rick was in the back laughing the whole time. Mm. And Serge took that as a compliment because he figured, okay, this guy gets it.
Yeah.
We're actually.
I think there's something to that too, that there's a lot of, I came to punk very late. Like I missed the whole when punk was making its points about like Reaganism and all that kind of stuff. I was a little kid, so that would have been way over my head kind of stuff. But listening to Rage Against the Machine and other bands like that were political, there's an element to where I really like that. I love that a band feels, hey, this is our platform, this is what we're gonna do, take it or leave it kind of situation. I'm totally okay with that. As an artist, that's your right. But it is nice sometimes when those bands also are just like, oh yeah, we're also rock and roll bands. We're just gonna fucking melt your face. Oops, sorry. We're just gonna melt your face with some good rock music, And I think there's something where sometimes you don't have to think all the time. There's something nice about having a mindless song occasionally that you can kind of just. Really, and like you said, when you look at the lyrics and you're just like, what is this supposed to mean? And it's like, it probably doesn't mean anything. It just sounds good on paper, or the cadence of it is awesome, or it just, like sometimes that's just enough. Like I said, sometimes it's like, listen, just turn your brain off and bang your head. That's all you got to do here.
Yeah, and I think System of a Down is kind of giving you both.
Yes.
And so as I'm reading the book or listening to it, he goes into how he discovered transcendental meditation. And that was also really cool because that was something that it reminded me of why I want to do it more, but that I also need to be careful because when I was doing it all the time, I got to a point where, I'm never going to be like he got to the point he went to with it, but I started feeling it, which is you become so, I don't know what you say, the feeling of we are all one and the world's going to do what the world's going to do and nothing is permanent.
Yeah.
And you're just going with the flow becomes so prevalent that it's easy to just not fight for things.
I was just going to say, I think what the danger is you tip from that into apathy. And it's, not everybody, not all the time, but it's just, it's a danger in that, I think.
Well, it's really something that I think I have tried to. I'm finding that the more I line up with this, and it's the Buddhist part of it. Serge describes how he's combined elements of Sufism and Buddhism and other religions to kind of create his own practice. And where I've it's helped me tremendously with dealing with band issues and pretty much anything where there's groups of people and it's usually work, groups of people, anywhere where you need to, you're kind of staking your little claim or whatever it is. And he realized that he wasn't fighting for things because he just said, all right, well, I'm just going to get along.
Yeah.
I'm not going to fight, because conflict becomes,
it's tiring.
Becomes pointless.
Yes.
That's the whole thing is that they're,
well, look at how many things, like going back to like the wording thing in that one song. It was like, if you really take that full step back from that, and it's like, who cares? Like, what difference does that really make? Right. But the others, it bothered them and they fought for it. So it's like, you can either have that conflict or you can, like he did, where he was like, he can offer like, and that's nice sometimes where you can avoid a conflict because of something. But like you said, there is that point where if you aren't careful, you just basically allow yourself to be a doormat. And that isn't that if you can live with that, that's one thing. But a lot of people, like we're not that kind of person. We also are like, hey, wait a second. I still have, opinions and all this. I'm not going to just give in all the time. That's not okay either. But in the grand scheme, most of it doesn't really matter. That's the hard part to weigh on.
So this is the point. Yeah, it really is he realized that there were things that he wished he fought, harder for and wasn't quite so, laissez-faire about it and just hands off. And I could relate to that because I appreciated when I had very strong conflict resolution or avoidance, where a conflict was about to happen and I saw suddenly a pathway out of it. And I felt really good about that. That helped me want to keep doing what I was doing, wanted me to stay on the beam and continue a good spiritual practice.
Yeah.
But there is a point where you do need to fight and you should stand up for yourself. And that was always a little thing because that's when you check your motive. Is like, is this because this something needs to be fought for, or is it just my ego wanting to fight for this?
Mm-hmm.
And so he describes he goes into some of that stuff, and it was a good reminder for me about why I enjoyed meditation and the benefits I get from it. And then he talks about getting into Buddhism, and he describes the colored sand mandalas, which are the art pieces.
Yep.
And mandalas, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
And that they would create this beautiful piece of art and then destroy it. Either like you wash it away,
Okay.
or you sweep it away,
Okay.
or you let it blow away in the wind,
Mm-hmm.
and that the art is in the doing, not the memorializing.
Also, that feeds into the I don't know if it's Buddhist or not, but the nothing's permanent type
That's
of
Buddhism, yeah.
type of thinking.
Which
Mhm.
which the I've brought in.
But
the
that's
nothing permanent.
totally right. As an artist, it is in the creative process. It's not about the finished product. And
it's not the memorializing the final thing.
it really is. The creative process is the art. Yeah.
Yeah, so these things tied in a lot of stuff that's happened with me with music over the last year, I'd say. And one of them was that when Jason decided to leave Doghouse, my attitude about it, like, well, what do we do? And I said, Tom was asking, what should we do? And I said, nothing. We just keep moving on. Nothing's permanent.
Yeah.
Right. And it allowed me to get through that immediately and to have compassion for Jason and understanding, because there's nothing permanent, that everything's good. Everything
Well, it'll
is
work
fluid,
itself out.
shifts.
Eventually you'll have another person join the band. You'll figure it out.
Yeah, and you don't. There were. I could tell there were parts of Tom where he wanted to grip on harder, and all I said to him is, you let go or be dragged.
Yep.
And that's bottom line. Is
Yeah.
The more that you hold on, the more you're going to be dragged, and so we've kind of, and then also, we've taken that approach to the changing band members. And at the beginning of the year, it's like, well, what do you want to do? And I basically laid out what I was willing to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a certain amount of guilt about it and uncertainty whether it was the right thing to do. And listening to this man describe his own journey with spirituality, he did the exact same thing. Here's a guy that loves to play in front of people, loves to play music, but hates to tour. And he just kind of laid it out, like said, hey, this is what I can do. You guys go ahead and get yourself another singer.
Yeah, I saw that, and I saw so many people were like, is he leaving the band? And it was like, no, listen to what he's saying. Like, I love to record. I don't like to tour.
Yeah.
So if you guys want to tour, you have at it. Like, this isn't who I'm going to be. Like, if that's what you expect from me, you're not going to get that. So
And
they
wrote
have to
this,
make a
like,
decision,
They got together to record a new album at one point, and he brought in this manifesto.
Yeah.
As he called it. Like, this is my thoughts on us being a band together and what he wanted and what he saw. And pretty much by the end of it, it turned into just a giant, bickering and he just was like, okay, and turned around and walked away.
Yeah.
And that was that. And
Right.
they're actually, but I'm totally jealous because our good friend Neil, next weekend, this weekend is the big festival at where he works in San Francisco.
Yeah.
And then next weekend they're bringing in System of a Down, Deftones, and the Mars Volta.
Oh man,
And
I would kill to go to that. I love Mars Volta. Yeah, I mean, I like all three bands, but I love Mars Volta. Yeah,
And I just was like, oh, I'm so jealous.
yeah,
But so clearly Serge still gets out and plays music. He does his thing, and they just kind of realized that, like this, for him, he wants to create this way. Other members of the band want to create differently, and he's like, okay, well, if that's how you want to do it, I'm not interested, and that's cool.
Well, the thing is, I think the way things are right now, I think you could still do that. I remember I mentioned this during lockdown with COVID. Bert Kreischer, the comedian, was doing a thing where basically he was in a city, they put on a stand-up show, and then they broadcast it to drive-thrus around the country, to where you could buy a ticket, go see the show, but it was at a drive-thru. Or not drive-thru, I'm sorry, a drive-in. Like a movie theater.
Yeah.
And I was like, in my head, I was going, I could see concerts being done this way because you can't hit every city. So you could be like, hey, we're playing Detroit. We're also going to broadcast around the area if you want to go see us in drive-in movie theaters or movie theaters or something to that effect, right? And it was like, with a band like this, you could do something very similar. Like, hey, we're only going to play a handful of places. but we're also going to at least enable people to see the concerts via these others. It's not the same as seeing them live, like in person, but I think a lot of people would very much be like, hey, if this is the only way I can see them, it's the way I can see them. Right? Because I've told Tony that, like, when Rage Against the Machine was like, hey, we're getting back together, but we're only doing like 6 cities, or when Temple of the Dog did that, and I was like, man, I wish they would, make it a little more accessible to people, because those tickets are going to go so fast, and that's it. That, it's only like 6 cities. That's not enough, when you have thousands and thousands and thousands of fans. So it's like, I feel like this other way is a way that it could work. I mean, I'm sure it's a logistics nightmare, and that's probably the main reason it doesn't work that way. But it's like, it's too bad that something more like that can't, or get with a company like, Amazon or Hulu or something like that. You've seen they've been doing where they've been broadcasting concerts on like Amazon. They did that with that Kendrick Lamar concert where he brought out everyone under the sun, basically, and it was an amazing concert and all that. And it was the only place you could watch it unless you were there, or recently up in Detroit, they did a concert thing up there that Eminem was an executive producer of, and they had a bunch of different Detroit acts, and then toward the end, Jack White came out and played for a little bit, and then Eminem closed, and it was like, but you could watch it on like TV. It was on like Channel 4 Detroit, covered it. And it was like, I feel like there's other ways in this, especially with concerts getting as ridiculous as they are in money, but this is also a way I think you could probably rake in extra monies, and also maybe then you don't have to do 1,000 concerts a year, like you could, okay, we've kind of blanketed this area with this technique and just hit, certain venues and then come through for different venues or whatever. But I don't know. Cause I'm sure there's logistics and money that get in the way, but it's like, I feel like there should be another way to reach the fans in that regard, because it does suck that if you have a guy who doesn't want to tour, and it's like, so unless I live basically near him, I'm probably never going to see him. Was it a year or two ago, Bob Seger said he's done touring, but I have heard that Bob Seger also might play a show here or there, but it's going to probably be near Detroit. So there's still a chance, but if you live in California, you'd have to fly here probably to see him. You know what I mean? And it's like, oh.
Well, they'll just start doing these big runs in one location. Which is
kind of like a Vegas concept.
Yeah,
which is fine. Like I said, and that would be okay too. It just kind of would suck that you'd have to fly out to wherever somebody lives. But it's like I said, it's no different than the Vegas concept. Hey, this is the only place I'm playing. If you want to see me, you have to come here. But
yeah, Fish is doing that. They every show is recorded, and the next day every show is live streamed, and then the next day it's available, and every show is available.
That's smart.
Every show.
That's so smart.
And they only go to specific locations, and they'll typically do like 2 or 3 nights or a week.
Yeah.
And every show is up, and you can listen to, if you're a fan, you can listen to every show live if you want, or you can just go on the next day and stream everything.
And once that's set up, that can't cost them that much to maintain and go forward with. As far as that goes.
Evidently, they've gotten to the point where they know how much money they will make off of beer at a venue.
Yeah.
That promoters actually pay them to come play because they know how much money that promoter's going to make off of beer alone.
Yeah, sure. That's
so
understandable.
Basically, whereas usually the cuts would be being taken out of all the stuff, it's the Fish is on a different level, which I think is kind of cool.
Well, it's cool when you get to that level where you can kind of you can make demands other bands can't make or whatever, because
possibly ever do like how about you pay us and we'll come there?
Yeah, like, are you crazy? That's not how this works. Yeah.
You want us? You know how much money you're gonna make off of us.
Yep.
You're not gonna. There's not gonna be the promoter cut off of our tickets.
Right.
You're gonna give up that. You're gonna basically give up that your usual cut because this is how much money you're making.
Yeah.
Which I think is just brilliant.
I mean, and kudos to them. They're not my cup of tea, but kudos to them for hitting that level and be understanding that they've hit that level and also saying, no, you're going to pay us that too. So beautiful.
You're going to give that up.
You know me. Get your paper.
The whole Mandela thing that resonated with me was the fact that about 6 months ago, I was talking to my mother, and she asked me, "Are you going to finish anything?"
Man, just knife right to the ribs, huh? Just there's nothing like somebody, like they say, the cuts are always the deepest from those that love you the most, basically. So,
But she was right.
yes, that's why I said it's like right between the ribs, man. I mean, she knew right where to hit you. But she's not wrong. I get it, because had she asked me the same question, I'd be like, "Oh, I'm wounded."
So we had a great conversation about it.
Yeah.
But I walked away from it still not quite certain of how I felt about what she asked me, because it was true.
Yeah.
And then as this art form is being described as the art is in the doing, not in the memorializing, I realized that I love doing the art. I don't care if it's memorialized.
Right.
And I don't want it to ever be an excuse to not finish something.
Yes.
I don't want to rely on that.
Yeah.
But it explained a lot about me.
It also
that-
really, I mean, as a creative, it really sucks sometimes. I mean, deadlines are deadlines sometimes, but also there's times where deadlines force you to skip the process or crimp the process to where you don't enjoy something as much because you've got to have it done tomorrow, Whereas if you could have had a little more time, you could have really fleshed out, enjoyed things, explored some stuff, whatever. And, but you're right. It's like you also can't go the other route with it, which is where it's you just become that person that never finishes a piece of music or a piece of art or whatever your creative is because, I'm in the process. And it's like, okay, at some point it's done. I remember in art school being told that one of the hardest things to figure out as an artist is when something is done. Because it is, you can get caught up in the process and really enjoying what you're doing. And you know what? I don't really, you just keep tinkering with this or this. And eventually, and not because you're trying to not finish, because you really are just like, I'm really trying to make the best thing I can make. But in the end, you're just like, yeah, but dude, like, how long?
Yeah, well, like that.
It's really
live
good.
That live recording, I put in 2 solid nights into it. Kind of came to the conclusion this is about as best as it's going to get. I did one more half a day just so I could review it a little bit, and then I just said, "This is done."
Yeah.
And I put it together and I sent it to them, and I said, that I would give them some raw files later, and they could work on it themselves. But that was something that I was able to do, I'm really focusing on this because the truth of the matter is all of it's, I mean, there's, other than a song that I wrote that might have an opportunity to be picked up by somebody, or that I could leave the rights to it to my nephews just for this, like Sharon brought in some vinyl that her dad had recorded, and I'm going to try to digitize it. But the reality is that all of it's gone and forgotten eventually.
Yeah.
So what's important, what's really important, and realistically for me, I'm realizing that the doing is for me the art, and
right,
not so much the finished product.
Exactly. My dad, I think it was like a month before he died, we were talking one day, and he goes, he's like, one of the things I realized in this last X amount of time, like knowing he's going to die, and I was like, what's that? And he goes, none of this stuff matters. He's like, here I am at the end, and none of it's going to save my life. None of it is going to change the world. None of it is going to, and I'm just like, at first you're just like, dude, like, hey, you've had a pretty good mentality here. What's going on? Like, why are we Debbie Downer and all of a sudden? But then, when you take that step back from it and you remove the he's going to die part, and you really just start thinking about it, and you're like you said, it's like you go, nothing's permanent. Nothing lasts forever. Even cold November rain. But, sorry, I couldn't help it. But, it's like, it really, like, it does, like you said, now, yeah, if you record something, you create something, it could live for how much ever on the internet or whatever, but it'll become forgotten for the most part, unless you're in that upper, as a musician or an artist, unless you're in that upper, like Picasso and Van Gogh and Rembrandt, those are going to be remembered because they're memorialized in museums. But how many artists have created beautiful works of art that no one has ever seen, that never will get seen, and it's just gone.
Artists.
Tons.
For every Mozart, there was hundreds and hundreds of other musicians in that same community that were actually more popular.
Right.
That nobody knows about.
Nobody knows about them. Exactly. And that's the thing is, it's like, I'm not saying that in any way to discourage anybody from trying, but it really comes down to just like enjoying the process, enjoying your life, finding what you can to enjoy versus chasing the perfection of finished,
But here's the other side of it. And you'll relate to this. Sharon immediately said, well, if I can't finish it, I don't want to start it.
And I'm terrible about that.
Guess what you're missing out on?
I'm skipping on the journey.
The journey.
Yep.
And I realized
that is exactly why it burns me up inside that I'm not creating. Because I remember how much I loved talking with other creatives. It's why I love the creative process in general. You know that. Like I'll talk creative process about, it doesn't matter what it's about. If somebody starts talking about this is why they do this in a creative manner, and I'm all ears. Like okay, let me hear why you do it. Because you never know, a little tip someone says in there might be great for you and what you do. Even if the fields are, I've talked, like I'm talking art, you're talking music, and there's how many times have we kind of clicked at the same point? Because the process, So, but you're right. That's the whole problem. I'm missing the whole enjoyment part.
Like this weekend, I was talking to other musicians about stuff that, just stupid, obscure little things I know about music.
Yeah.
And I just start laughing at myself. And Scott says, you know what? For all those dumb things that we appreciate it when you're doing the sound that them.
Yes.
And even though right now it's silly, but the funniest part over the weekend, the one that gave me the most joy was I was talking to a guy about these guitar pedals and whatever, and I made a reference to, I said, sometimes I don't need 31 flavors, I just need chocolate and vanilla. And Sharon all of a sudden says, oh, I understood that. Out of all this conversation, she's like, I got that. Anyhow, get back to the thing is
it is true though. Yeah.
When I'm at the end and probably waxing philosophic like your father did, sure, a recording will remind me of a wonderful afternoon I spent making that art with my fellow musicians.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it will remind me of that day, but what's important at the end is that I had that day.
Yeah.
And that I reflect back on it fondly and without regret and with no resentments, and the finished product is irrelevant. It doesn't matter.
Right.
And it's, how did I live this life? And how do I want to look back on it? And I want to hone in on this some more, and I want to continue on this journey with these ideas, because now I feel like I have a guide in that I've been given a reference to something that resonates with me.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes it easier for me to continue and continue in a way that doesn't leave me with doubt or anxiety or fear.
Yeah.
And that's what that was big for me. That was big to find that, because, outside of that, it's like, oh, hey, the money you thought you were going to have for that last crown, well, you ended up having to spend it on the one before. So now you don't have the money. And I sat there and was like, well, maybe I should put this off until the end of the year. And then I thought to myself, dude, you will drop $1,000 on a guitar just because you like the color. Take care of your teeth.
That is 100% correct. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So what did I do? I went in there and I gave him my credit card, because you know what? By the end of the year, I'll pay off the freaking credit card.
Right. So instead of waiting till the end of the year to get your tooth fixed, you're going to get it fixed now and not be miserable, hopefully, in all that time. And by the end of the year, you'll have it paid off instead of starting the debt at the end of the year. Yeah. So who cares, right?
It stressed me out right away, because I'm I'm baby steps towards actually feeling like I'm financially responsible. And, that there's always going to be setbacks. And then it's dealing with, like, when you're on a roll, you don't want to lose the roll.
Right.
So I've been on a roll, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, these are a couple little setbacks. And then it's like, all of a sudden I'm like, oh, wow. And then I have to remind myself where I started.
Yeah.
Where I was before I moved to Idaho, the amount of debt that I had, and
also,
where
something else to consider is realistically, like, where you are right now, you're in a position that you have room on a credit card to pay for that.
Oh yeah,
right.
That's the whole thing.
By the end of the year, what if, again, God forbid, what if something else came up? Now maybe you don't have. Now you might put it off longer, or something. It's like you don't know where you. Yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So it's like right now, it's like in a way you are being responsible because you're like right now I can afford to put it on the card and make payments, whereas in another time you might have to make a bad decision, whether it's putting it off or asking for a credit increase or something you didn't want to do to have room to do those kind of things or whatever. So there's that as well.
And I can it's not like I can run out of stuff I can't sell.
Right. Well, that too. Yeah.
And I do. I got a convertible I don't drive and a motorcycle I don't ride. Boom,
yeah.
Those are gone.
Yeah.
But the tying that back in is what the stress I all of a sudden felt was like, you know what? If you get into doing your art and enjoying the process of the art, this isn't going to bother you. And when we enjoy what we do, good things come from it.
Mm-hmm.
And like over the weekend, somebody said, "Hey, would you like to do sound for our band? How about we paid you this much?" And it was that reminder of, it's like when I pursue what I love, good things happen.
Yeah.
And that to be mindful of, these are the things worth worrying about. These are the things that you're okay with. Use the tools to get through your anxieties. Use the tool to get through stress. Stay out of fear. Stay out of self-centered thinking, and everything will work itself out. And that's kind of been this last few weeks for me, and it feels really good. It feels really good.
Yeah.
I like when I can simplify my thought process. I don't need to figure everything out for the next month.
Nope.
I just need to make it simple for tomorrow.
Yeah. And again, rolling back into the meditation situation, this is part of meditation, which is, noise comes in, noise goes out. And like you said, even if something does worry you, stress you, whatever, that's okay. Let it come, sit in it for a minute, let it go. And that's the process of that. Again, always easier said than done, but I'm one to worry forever on something.
That's why it's called they're called practice.
Yeah.
It's called a meditation practice. Right. It's all, like I had somebody was talking about, doctors are only treating the symptoms, and then something else comes on. I'm like, yeah, that's why it's called a medical practice.
Yeah.
It's not a medical, we know everything. No,
right.
It's not perfect.
Yeah.
Everyone's doing the best they can with the information.
It would be awesome if it could be to where you walk in and they're like, here's your cure. Thank you very much. You'd be like, awesome. Thank you. But that doesn't always work that way.
2 weeks ago, I found out that AI is terrible at math. Who'd have thunk it?
Yeah.
I mean, once I learned that, I'm like, well,
yeah, right.
And if AI doesn't get math, then why do we think my vet is going to do the best that they can with the symptoms that they see, and if something turns out later,
I've explained that to people because I know, and I've been friends with doctors for a long time, and I've talked with them about different stuff and their thought process, right? In that how they approach a problem and their problem solving. Because again, along with the creative process, I also love problem solving. Because like when I went to school for design, that was one of the first things we were taught is you are problem solvers. So your client gives you a problem, you come up with solutions to the problem, and then you work together for the final product. And it's kind of that way with a doctor, right? You go in, you tell them your symptoms. They then they go across what they know or reference another doctor or whatever it is they need to do at the time, and then come up with what they feel is the best attack at what it is. And it doesn't always work because it's not always right. But that's not always their fault either, because a lot of people don't like to tell their doctors the truth or the whole truth, and then they find out later, oh, you did this. Now now that changes it to this problem, So, but that's all any of us can do with anything in our life is like whatever is thrown at us. It's like assess it. What can I do about it? What's my best course of action? And then, again, it's as hard as it is to do versus say, is let the rest of it just blow out your ear and control what you can control. And again, this is coming from two guys who very much gripped onto every last bit of anything we could grip onto a long time ago. If you go back and listen to the early days of the podcast, we were very much still very much still gripping onto things that we had no business gripping onto. And now I still do, but I for sure let a lot more go than I used to. Because again, I'm very much similar to you, to where I'm very much like, none of this matters. Or it matters, but it's not like I can't control it matters. Some people I know with their politics, they let it control so much. And it's like, you can vote. You can go be part of the process. You can go out and canvass. There's things like that you can control. There's ways you can influence the process. But across the board, you can do your best, and that's about it. It's not necessarily worth keeping yourself up at night and stressing all the time and all the, I understand, some people have different, things do affect people differently. There are things that, but it's still the idea that, or with your job or whatever it is, like you said, it's like, it's going to be there tomorrow. You can't do anything once you've come home typically. I mean, unless you're trying to figure out a solution to something, but it's like, otherwise, there's a level of like, after a certain amount of time of being home, it's like, you got to let that go and relax a little bit.
Yeah. It'll be waiting for you the next day.
Because it'll be there tomorrow. Exactly. It's like, worry about it on their time. Worry about it when they're paying you. Like I said, easier said than done, though, right?
I find myself continuing to be able to do it, and that's like this morning when I woke up, I instantly started thinking about some of the stuff that needed to be stressed on. I said, "Dude, you're not even there yet."
Right.
Just have your morning, and then go feed the squirrels and go put water in the bird bath and the things that bring you joy. And then when you get to work, you can get to work.
And I know that's why a lot of people.
That's what I did.
That's why a lot of people start the day with meditation to try to have that clear head at least for X amount of time before you go to work. Pull up your computer, phone, whatever. It's like just get up, make your tea, coffee, whatever. Like you said, feed your squirrels, do those kind of things like that are your just going through the motions type things where you don't have you're not thinking about the world or your day at work or whatever, and you just kind of. It's like really one of the worst things we probably as a group do is we immediately pick our phone up. It's like if you could just leave your phone for an hour and just enjoy your coffee like people used to. My dad used to – Dad wasn't really a coffee drinker, but he would get up and have a bowl of cereal and read the paper. That kind of he'd go get a breakfast sandwich and read the paper or something to that effect. That was his morning. That's how he started. Get up, take his shower, go get his breakfast and paper, and and he liked to, a lot of times he would, if he went to like McDonald's and got a sandwich, he would just sit there and read his paper. That way, it was just him, and so many people don't do that stuff anymore. It's like they start the day by getting on Instagram or fill in the blank social media, and there's so much doom scrolling and so much of that because we can't control our algorithms like we used to be able to. So, you see so much stuff you don't even want to see anymore, which is mind blowing. So I don't know. It's like, you were saying that and I was really like, I've really fallen off with meditating, and it was like, I really should. 'Cause I was doing, oh, I forgot the name of the app. One of the apps used to have a thing where, like, if you didn't have money, you could, like, email them and they would give you, like, a year free. And it was guided meditation.
Yeah.
It was Sam, I can't think of his last name. Shoot. He's the guy that wrote the book on whether or not free will exists. Sam Harris. That's his name. And it was called Waking Up, maybe, was the app. And it was like, I really enjoyed doing that, you know. So I did it a lot of times before bed, because that's when I have the most trouble, is I can't shut my brain off before, I can't let stuff go before I go to sleep. You know, it's why for years and years I basically will stay up until I'm exhausted to where I can't keep my eyes open. You know, which does not lead to good sleep, by the way, if anyone out there is curious. It typically is basically like blacking out. It's not great. So as I was thinking about it, I was like, I really should get back to that. I should look to see, you know, find a guided meditation or whatever, and try to get back to doing that, because I'm sure there's free ones out there. Or actually, I might just see if they still offer that. If they offer it, maybe I'll message them again. But in the meantime, you know, I was like, I really should get back to that, because it helps. It's just that and having that skill set is amazing, because there's times through the day sometimes where you can find 5 minutes, you know, where you're sitting in a waiting room for a doctor's office or something like that, and you can just kind of slip into meditation, and it's a great practice because there's so much going on. It really helps practice with all that noise around you and stuff, you know. So yeah, that's something I really should. In fact, I'm going to write that down so I remember. So I'm glad you brought that up, because it definitely didn't hurt, you know.
That's for sure.
And it's literally 5 minutes, you know, or 10 minutes. I usually do it when I get up and before I go to bed. So it's like 10 minutes a day. It's not like it's hours of something, you know, just to tuck in there.
That's my intention, is to try to incorporate back into a morning routine at least like a 20-minute bit of some, you know, meditation, and then also just some stretching or some sort of a physical thing that I can start my day with, and try to make it into try to practice it and make it into a habit again.
Yeah.
Because I'd like to have that back into my day.
Yeah, and by the way, when I said 5 minutes, I was saying that because I'd be getting back into it. Usually the goal is to kind of grow your meditation. I mean, not that it has to get ridiculous, but when you start, it's hard to do
easy.
5 minutes.
Start simple, start small.
But it's hard to really get, air quote, good in lengths of time right off the rip. You kind of got to grow and then expand it. But yeah, that's why I said 5 minutes for anyone who's like, I do it for longer. It's like, no, that's good. Since I haven't done much in a while, I know I'm not going to be able to do a whole lot right off. It'd be like exercising, you know. I'm not going to go run a mile. I'm going to start with what I can do and whatever. But yeah. So yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, I was glad to chat about it tonight. I was like, oh, I know what I want to talk about.
Yeah, that's good. It makes me really want to read Serge's book too.
So good.
Because that's
so good.
Because I know the surface stuff. I don't know the deep dive stuff, but I know various like the stuff he talked about on Broken Record, like you said, and I've heard snippets of him elsewhere. So, very cool. All right, well, I think that's probably good.
Yeah,
no, we're not
Yay,
too far off an hour.
The show.
Yay, we're back. Woo. All right, well, I didn't pull up the things again because it's been a while since I've done this and I forgot. If you want to continue the conversation with us, you can email us at thecrazylifepodcast@outlook.com. The website is crazylifepodcast.weebly.com. You can find us on Twitter, where I typically post when a new episode goes up at the Crazy Life Pod. Really quick, because I haven't said this in a while, if there's something you'd like to hear us talk about, or if you know someone you think would be a good guest on the show, feel free to message us and let us know that. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/group/crazylifepodcast. We are part of the Tangent Bound Network, which can be found at tangentboundnetwork.com. And Henno, how can they find you?
Hey, you can find me on Instagram and Facebook. Just look up Heno Hiker, and you can see all my photos from Alaska and some gig videos and stuff. That's where I'm usually posting that kind of stuff. And I'm still on X at Ida Heno, but it's not really I'm not as active as I used to be.
Yeah, I'm on there, but I mean to post because I have a lot of things that I've already kind of drafted, and I always forget. And then it'll be like 10 o'clock at night, and I'll be like, I don't feel. Now, what's funny is when I started on Twitter, I used to just post whenever something would pop in my head, I would just post it. And given that I get no interaction either way, I really should just go back to that, because there's really no point in trying to hit an optimal time because everything just gets sludged down with politics now. So it's hard to get any traction writing jokes on there anymore or any of that stuff.
Plus, it's so easy now to just combine your Instagram and Threads, and it's just all one big happy family.
True enough, yeah. Yeah, because when I post something, I always do. I post it across Threads, Twitter, and Blue Sky. I don't usually bother. It's so funny because for someone who's on social media as much as I am, I post so little. Like I'm usually in groups on Twitter, or I'm DMing with someone. If I'm on Instagram, I'm usually just scrolling. I barely ever post on Instagram, and Blue Sky I don't post a whole lot on, and honestly I don't scroll it a ton either. It's just kind of funny how I consume, but I don't contribute a whole lot. So anyway, you can find me on various socials if you'd like to, after that stunning, please come follow me that I just posted. If I'm on a site, it's usually Stunami is my username. If you want to find my other podcast, which is Salty Language, it can be found on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, at salty_language or at saltylanguage.com. That show's not safe for work, so please keep that in mind. The last episode, we talked about Robert Downey Jr. Being cast as Dr. Doom. We talked the Batman Cape Crusader cartoon, which I talked about a little bit here. We talked about Kite Man, which was also a fun watch, especially if you're a person who watched the Harley Quinn cartoon or animated series on Max. We talked about Chester's Chicken, which is a place neither of us really knew anything about, and just whatever else. So it's just me and my best friend talking about that stuff. So if you're into that, please give us a listen. But again, please beware, not safe for work. So yeah, I think that's all the plugs there. So yeah, if you're a person who needs help, please reach out. I had a thing a couple weeks ago where there was somebody that I followed for a while on Instagram, and she basically posted a goodbye video on Instagram, and not a I'm leaving Instagram, but I'm checking out on life type goodbye. And I along with a bunch of other people were very much please don't do this. And, someone was able to get a hold of somebody that knew her, and she's at last I knew of getting some help. So hopefully that'll be enough and, helpful for her. It kills me whenever I see that from somebody, because I know what it's like to hit that point where you see zero hope on the horizon. And it's horrible. Most of us, no matter how bad things are, we still are just but on this weekend we're going to do this or something. There's something that we kind of hang our hat on to move toward. And when you don't feel like you have anything, it is awful. It is so awful. So if you feel like you're moving that way or in that place, please, please, please talk to somebody and see if, there's some help for you. I understand, like I've talked on here before, sometimes there isn't. And it breaks my heart that some people can't find, that there doesn't seem to be hope for them. And I mean, within their own mindset, but please reach out if you need some help, and please check in on people especially the ones that have a rough go of things at times. Just make sure they're doing okay. And I'm happy for anybody who's been able to move past it. Like me, I mean, I still deal with depression. I still deal with intrusive thoughts. I have suicidal thoughts off and on, but I'm not in any way none are I'm going to harm myself or others type of thing. So it, again, a good reason to meditate, because meditation helps you with those kind of thoughts sometimes too, that they can come and you can let them go. But, I'm glad that there's a lot of people out there that can, and have reached out for help, because I know how hard that is. So yeah, please keep trying if you can. And please be kind when you can. I know it's so hard with so much of this garbage going on, with politics and stuff in the world, that people just immediately want to go to anger and hatred and all this kind of stuff. But please keep pushing kindness and keep showing empathy to others, and please care about people. Please do not strive for apathy. Even though we just did a whole segment on nothing matters, but it's not in a give up mentality. It's just in a understanding the permanence of things. So please be kind when you can. And yeah, just stop being jerks. Dang it. So, all right. That's enough out of me. You want to take us out of here, Henno? Or you have anything to add, I should say? Not that I'm forcing you to.
Well, it doesn't really matter.
No, it doesn't.
just like yesterday's pizza. So don't worry about it.